what we usually do, sit in a circle, pass the ball around and take it in turns to answer 5 questions.
Because we are a YouTube channel which is aimed specifically at the electrical trade, we want to bring some awareness, and I'm happy to do that. I'd like to do that because, as we've said, it's an amazing trade.
What I will say as well is another massive well done to Ben, because the majority of people who attend an Andy's Man Club session don't open up in the first week. They don't open up in the first session, and they don't do it while they've got a camera in the face as well, right? It is hard, it's very difficult.
Hello, and today on SGTV we are joined once again by Lucas from Andy's Man Club, which is a men's mental health charity, and I'm going to pass the reins over to Lucas on this one. So, Lucas, what are we doing?
We are running an Andy's Man Club session, so we're gonna bear all. We're gonna talk about as much as we're comfortable about, as much as we're not comfortable about. So, before we get started, for context, this will never ever happen one-on-one. This is just an example. But what we usually do, sit in a circle, pass the ball around and take it in turns to answer 5 questions. I'll tell you what those 5 questions are as we go. But Ben, there are a few rules to tell you about. So first rule, no pressure to talk. Even though you might feel pressured to talk right now, but there's no pressure to talk whatsoever.
So there's a camera pointing at me,
yeah.
expecting me to talk.
But talk as much or as little as you want, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. There are 5 subjects which we won't mention today. Usually it's 4 in England, but we'll add in the Scottish one, which is the 5th one. So the subjects we don't talk about: religion and politics. Obvious reasons, they cause wars, so we don't want to have a scrap, so let's not do it. You'd win. Another one is medication. We're not professionals, so we're not equipped to give advice on medication or advice whatsoever.
Okay.
The other one is criminal matters, but I don't think that'll be a problem. Maybe we'll see.
Know.
We don't know. That's me being judgmental. And then I'll let you guess. What do you think the one we don't talk about in Scotland is?
I was going to say something really bad then. I love the Scottish. I don't know.
It's fairly obvious when I say it's football, right? So,
okay. The fact that they can't play it.
Oh no.
You probably have to cut that.
No, you don't, because I'm half Scottish and I'll defend Scotland to the hilt. I'm a Scotland fan and we can play football. We're a damn sight better than you a lot. But anyway, we don't talk football in Scotland because obviously a very divisive topic up there as well. But those are the subjects we'll stay away from. So what we usually start with in a normal session is our name and a positive reason for being here. So my name's Lucas, and my positive reason for being here today is obviously spreading the word in this industry, spreading the word around Scolmore about what it is we do, in the hope that people attend the session. Okay.
So mine is probably going to be very similar, apart from the name. My name is Ben, as you will hopefully know. And my positive for this, again, because we are a YouTube channel which is aimed specifically at the electrical trade, we want to bring some awareness, and I'm happy to do that. I'd like to do that because, as we've said, it's an amazing trade, but there are issues with mental health, and I'd like to try and help if I can.
Fantastic. So then, ordinarily, the ball will pass back around the circle, and we're going to question 1. So question 1 at Andy's Man Club stays the same every week. The first 3 stay the same every week. And question 1 is, how has your week been? So I'll answer first. My week has been a mixed bag, to be completely honest. But what we'll do is we'll come on to that in question 3, where we get things off of our chest. Yourself?
It's been more positive than negative. Some stuff that has annoyed me, to put it bluntly, but some highlights which have put things into perspective, I'd say.
Very good, very good. So a chance to talk about those highlights now. Question 2 at Andy's Man Club is 1 positive from your week. I'll say that my positive from my week is last week I went to the gym every day that I'd planned to go, lost a little bit of weight, which were really good for me. Been a struggle for me over the years with my weight, to be completely honest, and the fact that I'm making a good effort to try and remedy that feels really, really good.
I like that, that's good. Positive from my week. Okay, so just pick anything. I had a sit down with one of my daughters, and we were talking about how she wants to go on to university at some point. She's about to finish school, and we were talking about her roots, and that was quite nice because it felt like I'd done something right, that the fact she wanted to go and do higher education, she got a career in mind, and that felt good.
Good. So ordinarily in an Andy's Man Club session, you'll get guys who are coming for the first time who are in a position where they feel as though they don't have a positive from the week, and might sound really cringy, but ultimately the positive is they've walked through the door. They've made that positive step towards helping themselves, towards feeling better, and you know that's a positive in itself, and it's really important to be shared. So question 3, the final one of those questions that remain the same every week is anything to get off your chest, and that's not limited to the last week. You can get anything off your chest that you'd like to, you know, whether it's trauma from 20 years ago, whether it's a bad day. Nothing is off topic, nothing is off limits. So for me, the thing I'd like to get off my chest this week is the fact that at home we're going through a situation where my granddad has stepped up to the plate, and he's helping his brother-in-law at the minute who's going through dementia, who's in a nursing home, and he's going through a lot of stress as a result of it. And you know, my granddad is a really important figure for me in my life. He's been the father figure that I didn't have. Stepped up to the plate. Not only that, he's my best friend as well. And to be honest, it's strange because not only am I worried about him going through the stress of taking his brother-in-law into this nursing home, I'm also worried because he's 73. He works in the trade as well. He's a painter and decorator. But as a 73-year-old, you can see a bit of worry on his face because he's thinking, my memory's not so good. Maybe this is a route I'll go down. And obviously for me, even though it's something that's out of my control and obviously it won't happen for a few years, I'm thinking, you know, how am I going to feel if my granddad goes through that and if he's the person who ends up in the nursing home? So it's just like dealing with that, and obviously there's nothing I can do with that immediately, but just knowing that it's there and that it's a pressure. And you know, I've spoken to him about it as well, and he feels exactly the same. He's worried that, you know, in 10, 15 years, potentially he's going to be in the same position. But I did tell him I'm not going to wipe his ass. But another thing to get off my chest as well. So my little brother, he lives with my grandparents. It's become public knowledge at school that his mum has addiction issues. And this week, there's been people at his school who've been picking on him for it, who've been putting him through a really, really hard time. Now, he's in year 10. School hasn't always been the best place for him, but to see him go through similar things to what I went through, it's quite painful, and it brings up quite a lot of sort of past trauma for me. But I know that I can be there for him, I can put an arm around him and I can try and help him with it. But it's just horrible to know that that's still there and that's still affecting him and that's a pressure on him. So, you know, ultimately, the two things to get off my chest, dementia, horrible thing, right? And obviously something that affects so many people. And then also just the fact that kids can be so cruel and so thoughtless with what they do sometimes. And, you know, it's an horrendous thing for him to have to go through. But yeah, that's all off my chest now. So anything to get off your chest, Ben?
Okay, so I suppose I felt a sense of relief this week, and I feel guilty about that because I was supposed to go visit a friend, and we planned a bit of a drinking session. I love my friend. I'm sure if we went and did that, we'd have a brilliant time. We always do. But I almost felt a sense of relief because external things meant we're going to have to reschedule. But the relief came, I think, because I get anxious about going drinking, and I don't do it very often. The issue isn't drinking, it's the reasons behind it. Rewind, I've had family who had issues with alcohol, and I have this irrational thought in my brain that if I enjoy going out having, even if it's once or twice a year, which is about all it is, if I enjoy doing that, am I going to slip into a hereditary pattern? Again, as I'm saying this, I know this can be irrational, but it plays on my mind, and I almost felt a sense of relief at this being cancelled because I know whilst I'd be out drinking, having a good time, in the back of my mind I'm thinking, yeah, remember, they were an alcoholic, you share the same DNA, that could be you. So that's something that mixed feelings about.
Yeah, no, and do you know what? That's a really powerful share. And obviously, like, what I'd say to that is, like, you say it's an irrational fear. I don't think it's irrational at all. Like, I think the thing is, what you've acknowledged is the fact that you've got control over it. It's rational because it's how you feel, and you need to be comfortable in that feeling and how you feel about it. And I think for me, I've had very similar feelings, as we mentioned in episode 1. When I sort of got involved in substances, you know, I thought, I'm going down the same path that my mum went down, that my dad went down. And, you know, it's a horrible thing, but ultimately you've got that level of self-control to stop yourself slipping into that, as you know. But honestly, it takes a big pair of balls to share and to open up about something. So well done for doing it in a public setting. And yeah, honestly, you might not feel better now, but you probably will feel better later on today when you reflect on this. Yeah. So
thank you for being honest as well.
All good, all good. So thank you to Ben for sharing there. What we do ordinarily in one of these sessions now is we break for a tea and a coffee, for a biscuit, for a smoke, whatever people need to do. And in that time, people will share their own stories, share their own little pieces of experience. Like obviously like me and Ben have just done there. And those little pieces of, you know, support, not necessarily advice, but support and shared experience can be enough to make people feel more normal and more comfortable about the problems that they're facing. So it's a massively significant part of every session. What I will say as well is another massive well done to Ben, because the majority of people who attend an Andy's Man Club session don't open up in the first week. They don't open up in the first session, and they don't do it while they've got a camera in the face as well, right? It is hard, it's very difficult, but you'll find the majority of people who go, they'll ease themselves into it and they'll open up maybe after 3-4 weeks, but there'll be no pressure to do so. The only pressure, and it's not really pressure, will be the guys in the room will probably encourage you to keep trying it again until you feel you've opened up. And if it don't work for you, fair play. All you've lost is a couple of hours on 3 Monday nights. That's all you've lost. And you know, you've gained something because you've tried to actually remedy how you feel. So, moving on. Question 4 and question 5, they change every week. Question 4 is usually quite deep, you know, something that makes people think. It's quite thought-provoking. And question 5 is usually a bit of fun. And the reasoning behind that is we want people to actually make positive steps or to think positively after they've shared something that could be potentially quite negative and harmful in question 3. And then question 5, that comes in there to just lift the mood of the room. So I won't tell Ben what we're going with. Question 4, where's a place that you go to if you want to feel calm? So for me, there's a couple of places. So it sounds daft, but Ellen Road, I know we said we weren't going to mention football, but watching Leeds before the game starts, I feel quite calm there. Another one is a place called Hayed Edge, which is above Home Firth in West Yorkshire, near where I live. If you've seen Last of the Summer Wine, it's where most of it were filmed. But it's a really calm, tranquil little village, nice pub, lake, and you've got a view of all of Yorkshire. And then the other one for me, Whitby. Whitby's always been a special place for me and my family. It's a really scenic, picturesque, beautiful place, and you know, being on that West Cliff or being on that promenade underneath the West Cliff, just with the North Sea and all its force blowing wind at you and everything, it just takes me back to some really happy times when we were younger. And it's an amazing, really meaningful place for me is Whitby. So those, I've picked 3 instead of 1 because I'm being greedy, but those are my places that I go when I want to feel calm. Yourself?
I was there about 3 weeks ago in that promenade with a chocolate ice cream.
Very good.
It's beautiful.
The only mistake you made was chocolate ice cream. I don't do chocolate ice cream.
I love chocolate ice cream.
Cinder toffee. That's what it's got to be. Right, go
on. So I grew up a small village, not far from where we are in Tamworth, next to a woods, big woodland, and for me that is solace for me. Like I can go there and it's like I almost feel regulated, even down to temperature. It may seem daft. I can go there hot or cold and I'll warm up or cool down and I'll just feel better and calm and I can just that's probably mine. But I would like to actually add something onto that, which isn't me, but if it's beneficial, was I wanted to just mention about my grandpa. So you may feel I'm going off piste here, but there is a reason for this. So he was in Burma during the war, experienced horrific things, and coming back, when he came back, he bought a house local in Tamworth. He'd got a little water feature, which was a bridge going over a pond. And it wasn't until decades later someone asked him, what was this? What was the deal with this pond? Because I think it had a sign and it had like an unusual name. And he said, so when he was in Burma, He'd be out in the field, the jungle, experiencing horrendous things. But there was a fallen tree over a bridge. No, sorry, a fallen tree over a river that became a bridge. And he knew if he was over this bridge, he was safe. That was Allied territory or whatever you call it. Other side of the bridge, your life's at risk. So when he got back, there was obviously PTSD, there was anxiety. He built this little bridge. So whenever he was feeling anything, he'd go over there, and that was his solace. And yeah.
That's the power of these sessions. I think that they can bring up a lot of evocative, really positive memories. Obviously, again, a massive thank you to Ben, star of the show, sharing his story again and sharing his granddad's story. And you know, it's what these sessions do. You end up going to places and talking about things that you never thought you'd talk about, and that's the beauty of them. And you know, things that are on your subconscious that are either positive or negative, that you probably haven't even considered for years and years and years, they come flooding back to you, and that's why you have such an emotional response. And you know, I just, hats off to you. Like honestly, that's thank you so much for opening up about that. It seems really, really crass now to go on to question 5, which is what's your guilty pleasure song? So from that really powerful share there, we'll go to my guilty pleasure song. We're going to go with Dr. Jones by Aqua. That's one that I always answer with. It's just, do you know what? I actually got into it because myself and a couple of my colleagues, we drove down to Hampshire under some really poor circumstances, to be fair. We lost one of our staff members. He had a heart attack. And on the way down, there were 3 of us in the car, and we were all dreading going down to Hampshire, to be honest, because you know, we were going to be around people who were all grieving. We were grieving as well, and we thought, you know, it was going to be a really difficult time for us. The people down there couldn't have been more supportive when we got there, but as daft as it sounds, a stupid song like Aqua, Dr. Jones, playing that on the radio every day, it just got us pumped a little bit, it just got us fired up a little bit, got us laughing, got us smiling again, and meant that we were able to sort of, you know, actually show that level of support that we could be the best versions of ourselves, and obviously we all leaned upon each other to give each other support as well. That's probably the deepest thing anyone has ever attached to a song by Aqua. But if any of the members of Aqua are listening to it, just know Dr. Jones is more than just a catchy tune. It brings up some very, very evocative memories for me. But yeah, what's your guilty pleasure song?
I had one on in the radio this morning, and for anyone who knows me knows I like rock music, heavy metal, as well as lots of genres. So I'd like to put that out to prove I'm a man before I say the next one. But I think this morning my guilty pleasure was a song by the Goo Goo Dolls called Slide. And I'll tell you why, because I think the Goo Goo Dolls remind me of my partner, Lisa, so good things there. But with them being, were they like mid to late 90s, early 90s,
late 90s.
I think it takes you back to like an innocent, carefree time where that's going on in the back. It wasn't necessarily stuff I was listening to back then, but it's stuff that reminds you of that time where pressure and stress wasn't there as much. You know, and I think the same sort of resonates when people watch like old Disney films. They could be watching like Bambi and they turn into a blubbering mess, and they can't answer why. But I think when you actually dive deep, it's because it does remind them of simpler times.
Yeah,
so
massively.
There's my guilty pleasure.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think music's got such a power, hasn't it, to just bring out so much emotion. So that's how a session runs. That's how simple it is. They run online as well as face-to-face. Online they run in exactly the same way. Obviously you just don't pass the ball around. Those online sessions are really good for people who might be single dads, you know, might have a busy lifestyle, might struggle leaving the house potentially. So they're a really important tool for those guys. To attend one of those, you drop an email to info@andysmanclub.co.uk. To find your nearest location, you go to www.andysmanclub.co.uk, and locations are there on the website. So ordinarily after the session finishes, now what would happen is guys might stay around for a little while, have a little chit chat, and then immediately after the session is finished, any new members will get added into a closed Facebook group. And on that closed Facebook group, guys are able to share during the week. And you'll find a lot of friendships forming as well. In the northeast of England, for example, you've got a group of guys who go cooking together. They go do cold water swimming together in the North Sea. All sorts of friendships blossom from this, and it's friendships between people who bond because of the issues they've been through. You've seen people from opposite ends of life, opposite, backgrounds, differing viewpoints, come together and bond over a very, very similar issue, and that's the power of Andy's Man Club. Not only does it give these people hope, it gives people a sense of community and a network and people that they're able to lean on. That is all. That is how an Andy's Man Club session runs. Thank you very much, Ben, for bearing all and for opening up. And I hope to see you guys at some point again.
Yeah, I would just like to add though that the reason we're doing this is because, as we spoke about in the previous episode, the stats, not only in men in general, but especially the trade, which is our audience, they're shocking. And if you can open up, go to one of these sessions, it might just open another world for you.
Yeah, the frustrating.
Might save your life.
It's painfully simple as well, isn't it? How it works. It's
painful.
Painful and simple, but yeah, no, it's very simple is the method, which is is why it spreads so fast, and why it's so useful to so many people. But yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. As always, please remember, like, subscribe, hit the notification button below. Check out the other episode we've done with Lucas, where we dive into Andy's Man Club and how, why, all of those kind of things. And we'll see you on the next one.